all to another premium spirits review here at the KOE Nation page. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil KOE, joined by my indomitable broadcast partners in inebriation.
Tony fucking G, like, share, subscribe.
Jermz, but I'm thinking of changing that during a pandemic.
You got a point there. So we're here to review Glenfiddich single malt Scotch whiskey, bourbon barrel reserve. So this is just in a bourbon barrel.
Okay.
So the bourbon heritage, 14 years in bourbon barrels, adds sweet notes. And then the finished in new oak barrels, imparts extra notes. And I'm not going to say what those notes are quite yet,
Okay.
but after 14 years maturing in casks that previously held bourbon, our malt master, Brian Kinsman, finishes our Scotch whiskeys in deep charred new American oak barrels from Kentucky for a rich, sweet, and vibrant malt. So you tend to like it a little more woody, a little more smoky, a little more. This one I think might appeal to you a little more than.
Sounds like it.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yes. The 15 really appealed to me. I'm excited for this one as well. But yeah, just based off the description, I think this could be right up Jerm's alley.
Now, what's interesting about this, we're also using some Glencairn glasses. Now, let's see if I poured the proper amount, because these are not only nosing glasses, but they're also a measuring glass. You're supposed to, set it over on its side without spilling any liquid, and that indicates you have the right amount to spin it to get a lot of air in there to really open it up.
See, I would have gone to there.
Yeah, that would be improper for the Glencairn nosing glass, sir. So let's see how it hits the nose first, gentlemen.
Smoky. Ooh. Almost like a sweet scorched smoke.
Yes.
I really like the nose.
This is going to be filthy.
Oh man, I really like the nose on this.
I was about to say,
I didn't think I'd like the nose as much as I do.
It's like a more silky bourbon.
Yeah.
Because I do like me some bourbon, but let's be frank, bourbon's got a bite.
It's sweet, but yeah, the bite is there no matter what bourbon you try. That Blanton's was definitely one of the smoother ones I've had, and that's not the same bourbon aroma I'm getting off of this, but it's undeniable. Obviously, the casking.
This now Speysides are kind of some of the silkier of them, and I do apologize. In my 12 video, I mistook the Speysides for the Isles. I'm sorry, people of Scotland. You gotta forgive us, Yanks. But
you do forgive us after all the different scotches we tried that
night. We were a few deep.
We dove deep.
So
I love the smell on this. I'm hoping the taste is just as good.
Yeah, let's try it.
Wow, really, really light on the tongue. Oh, but there's that bourbon bite. Oh yeah.
At the end.
Yep.
Now, strange things, Jermz. Master distiller Richard Patterson says to appreciate a good scotch.
Oh, don't drink the glass.
Well, don't knock it back like a cowboy. Now, we are here in cowboy country.
Indeed.
So you must forgive us. But, well, considering you seem to thoroughly enjoy that, we'll get to you here in a second, Tony. But we scale them on 4 scales: as a single malt scotch, as a scotch, as a brown spirit, and then shelving, top, middle, bottom. So, as a single malt scotch, now you've had a couple of them over here now.
Yes, I have.
How would you rate this in terms of single malt? 1 to 5 stars.
Let's start with 4.
4 stars.
That was pretty smooth. That's
Tony G.
It's so interesting the way this hits your palate. It's very light and crisp on the front, and it gets heavier and denser the longer you taste it, and it has that bourbon bite at the end. For a single malt, I'm gonna give it a 3 1/4.
3 1/4. Okay, why is that? Why are you giving it 3 1/4 as a single malt?
Because I don't, when I drink this, I'm not thinking Scotch. I'm thinking bourbon. It's just an undeniable
It's
taste.
pulling away from the Scotch.
Because when I'm drinking a Scotch, I'm expecting a single malt Scotch. This reminds me so much of bourbon.
Making a Scotch a bourbon.
Yeah, it hurts the rating for me. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it does hurt the rating.
It does have vanilla, which is something you do not associate with Scotch.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes,
3 1/4. Hate to agree. I'm going to agree as a single malt, 3 1/4.
Okay.
So now, Jermz, as a Scotch, this is putting it up against all the single malts, all the blendeds, pretty much anything that you've ever encountered from the island of Scotland.
Which has been most anything I've had here.
Yep. So on a scale of 1 to 5.
Well, give me 4 1/4 then.
4 1/4. This is one he's.
You are liking this.
Well, he is a lover of bourbon. What can I say?
It's leaning my way.
Okay. Tony G, as a Scotch.
As a Scotch, I don't want to hurt it on the same scale that I did on the single malt. So I will give it points for being innovative as a Scotch because you get the notes of bourbon that you don't typically get. So I think it helps it in that area stand out from the crowd. So I will give this a 3.75.
3.75.
I love it taste-wise, and the smell is amazing. It's got a good year. It's a brand I enjoy, and yeah, it's unique. So 3.75.
As a Scotch, I'm gonna give it 3.5. It's good, but again, it's so bourbon adjacent.
Yeah,
that I could. We'll get into that in the next one. Brown spirits. Now this is putting it up against every whiskey, every cognac, every brandy, every bourbon, every rum, all the world of brown distilled spirits. Where do you put it on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, sir?
On my scale, it's 4.5.
Wow.
Okay, this
Really
one he
liking
likes.
that, man.
He likes.
You might be buying that bottle off of me at this rate.
Peace. Tony G.
Usually brown spirits is where I'm really critical. But I can't really say anything bad about this as far as a brown spirit because the color's good. The nose is fantastic. The taste is unique, but pretty familiar. And I think you could, I actually would potentially cocktail this. I'm going to give this a 4 on a brown.
That's exactly what I was going to give it as a brown spirit, 4 stars, because yes, I could cocktail this. I do a lot with this.
I would actually cocktail this. And that's saying a lot for me because I wouldn't usually do that with something that comes in a tube.
Now, I know you're going to think I'm insane here, but what I would cocktail this would be 2 ounces of this, a half ounce, maybe even a 1/4 ounce of chili vodka in root beer.
I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah, that would be.
Okay.
You add a little bit to that spice that gives it a little extra kick.
Okay.
And that, I could see that making an amazing cocktail.
Let me put it this way just before we round this out. My whiskey order list goes Scotch, Irish, Canadian bourbon, kind of in that third area. I would grab this before a bourbon most times because it has the familiarities of a bourbon, but it's still true to a Scotch. So I would probably reach for this if I was in the mood for a bourbon and didn't have a bourbon.
Wow.
I mean, I wouldn't go out and buy a bourbon because this is so familiar with it.
All right.
I love it. I really like it. It's unique, and I could definitely drink a lot of this.
This is a rich man's bourbon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, gentlemen, Shelvin.
If there's any left, I'll put it on the top.
Gosh, after saying all the good things about it, I hate to say middle, but I could see me moving this down if I needed to. I would definitely start out on the top. But if I was going to run out of room and I needed something to move down, I would probably reach for this, but it's definitely it would start out on the top.
Now, it has nothing to do with the fact that it's not a sherried malt. I assure you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. You're
But,
convincing everybody.
yeah. But this would sit right next to the Glenfiddich 12. This is my bottle. It'd be sitting right there over in the middle shelf. Fine whiskey, great middle shelf offering. So I would definitely recommend giving the Glenfiddich 14 a shot, especially if you're a lover of American bourbons.
Yes.
How do you still have some left?
That's a good question. We'll have to explore that, and you'll have to explore it with us, folks, here at the KOE Nation. So as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, this has been our review of the spectacular Glenfiddich Bourbon Aged Single Malt Speyside Scotch. Folks, I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil KOE, signing off and handing it off to my indomitable broadcast partners.
Jermz.
Tony fucking G, thanks for joining us.